So another day, we've got another former NBA player just completely disrespecting the modern game. And it's always a funny one because I'm like, these players, they will simultaneously complain about modern players, modern coaches, modern fans disrespecting the old game. And the way they do it is by disrespecting the current game, when they think they're going to get people to change their minds. I think the reality is this is a reality that most people can agree with. The players now are better than ever before. We have never seen as many good, big, skillful players than before. We've never seen this amount of pure talent in the game. We have never seen teams play as efficiently as they have. We've never seen offenses as efficiently. But I think we can all say the actual product of NBA games was better in the 90s. Because, ironically enough, not necessarily talent not being elite, but like what we're seeing 6 foot tall guys do back in the day, as far as like handling the ball, we now see 6'8" guys being able to do something similar. We've seen the game become completely positionless, the post being eradicated due to its inefficiency, a whole bunch of things, like basically just a whole bunch of new things happening in the game. That the game, like, if you put a team from today out against a team from the 90s, the team from today would win by 40 points. But that's just the evolution of sport. It doesn't mean that the game was not more fun to watch in the 90s. And it doesn't mean that if you put these other players in with everything they have today, with the efficiency, and you have them growing up 30 years later and they come to the NBA, that they wouldn't be as good as the modern day players. But obviously games adapt, the game evolves, and there's no real point comparing eras because in every single sport, the modern era is going to have the best players. It's just the reality of the situation. Before we get on to what we are doing, Hoopsmas. We're uploading 10 videos every single day for December up until Christmas. We are on the second day of Hoopsmas right here. If you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. We have just hit 7,065. That's mental. If we hit a 7.1k by the end of the day, that would be insane. But Tim Hardaway Sr. came out and said this. This is an article from Fadeaway World. He has come out and said, claims he would average 40 points in today's NBA. He's made bold claims of how he performed in the modern era. So, 40 easy. I get to shoot 15 threes a game. I'm like Steph Curry. I'm Steph Curry right now. It'd be hard to deal with me right now 40 easily. So, just letting you guys know, the difficulty of threes that players like Steph Curry take. You can't judge a three-point shooter based on their percentages. Because if Steph Curry shoots like 43% from three, and he's shooting them all on the move, off the dribble, from deep, and the gravity of him is taking almost 2 players out to him at 40 feet, or at 35 feet because they're scared of him shooting the 3-ball, that is a better shooter than a guy who shoots 50% on only shoots wide open catching threes. Tim Hardaway, in today's game, I'm not joking, would be a 6 foot tall point guard who would be a mediocre 3-point shooter on decent volume. If you want to look at Tim Hardaway's stats, this is the man who says, I'm Steph Curry shooting 15 threes a game. The guy shot, what did he shoot? In his final seasons, he shot 37% from three. Coming into the league, he shot 27% from three as a rookie. He shot 38% he shot 33%. Basically, when he was shooting decent volume, he shot 37% in Golden State. That's the best he shot, which is not a bad percentage, by the way. Like, he could shoot the ball. He genuinely could shoot the ball. But, like, he just called himself Steph Curry. He's shooting 37% from three. That's his best season on 7 attempts. 37%. He was not Steph Curry. Hardaway was phenomenal in his prime, averaging 23.4 points on 46 in the field and 41% from three in his best season, 91-92. Did I miss something? Wrong thing I clicked on. 91-92. He shot... They just lied. He just lied. He shot 33% from three. There's a big difference there. I'm sorry, like, there is a massive difference between 41 and 33%. Did he average those numbers as well? Did he average that many points per game? Yeah, 23.4, and he was 8th in MVP voting. But he apparently would average 40 on 15 threes a game. I mean, yeah, maybe if you shot 15 threes a game, you might. He compared himself to Steph Curry when Curry hasn't even averaged 40 a game. The closest we've seen to a player averaging 40 is Harden, where he averaged 36.1. Couldn't even crack the 40-point barrier, nor of the best players of his era. Hardaway was great. He might be averaging over 25 points a game in a playoff team. Thank you. And then JJ Redick said that he was mediocre. I don't even know what he said, man. He couldn't even play back then. The Park District wouldn't even have him playing. We wouldn't even have him on the court. He could only dribble. Oh, sorry. This is him about Tim Hardaway, was it? That's all he could do, dribble. I mean, the one thing he could do is shoot. What? He couldn't even dribble a basketball. Who cares? He ran around and he would shoot. If he played the Steve Kerr role where all he did was just spot up and shoot. I'm not joking. In the mid-90s, and I mean this, JJ Redick on just wide open catch and shoot spot ups would have probably ended his career as the greatest shooter of all time at that time. Like, we look at the way Reggie Miller was moving off screens and shooting. That's what JJ Redick could do. And I mean that. JJ Redick was a 20-plus point per game scorer in the 90s. At his peak. He was. If JJ Redick was allowed to be JJ Redick, he's a 20-plus point per game scorer. But, like, JJ Redick was incredible. Basketball's evolving, so to say a player would dominate modern era is insane. Yeah, obviously. And that's the reality is that when it comes to basketball, it's the only sport where apparently the game has devolved. And from a spectator perspective, I agree, the game has devolved. But that is literally because the game has become so efficient in the way it's played. The way the rules are taken advantage of. For me, the court needs to become smaller and the defensive 3 seconds need to be no longer a thing. What that allows you guys to do is it allows you to funnel people into the paint. It allows you to play true zones and it allows you to funnel people into shot blockers. And because people are packing the paint and people are standing in the paint, it allows the dump downs, which means people will be more effective at a dunker spot. It changes the whole thing. But the reality is that no, Tim Hardaway Jr., you could not average 40. There's nobody in the history of basketball that could average 40 points in a game in the modern NBA. I mean, there are players that could. Like, Prime Harden could have averaged 40 in the modern NBA. Jordan, if he was in the modern NBA, could average 40. LeBron, if he wanted to, could average 40. KD could average 40 if he wanted to. Steph Curry would have averaged about 37 if he didn't sit fourth quarters in his MVP year. Like, there are players that if they really wanted to, they could average 40. But obviously nobody wants to. Tim Hardaway's not one of them. In the 90s, there is one player, and I repeat, one player that could average 40 in today's game. And it's Tim, and it is, jeez, I almost said Tim Hardaway, it's Michael Jordan. But Michael Jordan wouldn't just come into the NBA right now and average 40 points a game. I mean, like, in some hypothetical, he could average 40 where he's allowed to average 40, where his team lets him average 40. But in that same hypothetical, prime LeBron could have averaged 40. In that same hypothetical, Anthony Edwards right now could average 40. A Luka right now could average 40. Like, these players, like, to say Jordan coming into the NBA right now be a better scorer than all of them, that is a completely different debate. But we're literally debating arguably the greatest player of all time in Michael Jordan. We're going to be having the same debate in 20 years' time when people are like, how do you think that LeBron James could play in today's NBA? We've got Victor Wembanyama and his 3 clone. We figured out how to clone people, and we've got Victor Wembanyama and his 3 clones out there. And they're playing 3, 4, and 5 at 7'6", blocking everything and hitting threes at a 40% rate. How do you think LeBron James was going to be able to survive? And that's the reality of the situation is the sport evolves. Everything kind of... There's a lot of stuff that kind of evolved with the sport that we got to look... So we got to look at things in different lights. But one thing is for sure. This man could not average 40 points in the modern NBA. Tim Hardaway Jr. is a 6-foot-tall point guard with an elite handle, by the way. Absolutely elite handle. He was a 6-foot-tall point guard who was a pretty good scorer. If he played and was not the most efficient player in the world, if he played in today's NBA, he would be attacked on out of every single pick and roll. He was listed as 6 foot back then, which means he's probably about 5'10". He would last about 4 to 5 years in the league. He would have to be putting him close to 30, like an Isaiah Thomas or a Kemba Walker in their prime. Otherwise, he would be sitting his ass on the bench and not playing, because he would be attacked in every single pick and roll. He would be attacked by all those 6'6" point guards that teams have. He would be like, they would absolutely abuse him. It is more likely that he would be. It is more likely if Tim Hardaway Jr. was able to cryogenically freeze himself and play in today's NBA. It is more likely that he's over in Europe playing with Mike James for wherever he's playing right now than it is for him to average not only 40, for him to average 25 in today's NBA. And that's just being honest. Unbelievable player in his time. Genuinely unbelievable player in his time. Hall of Famer, I'm pretty sure. And if he's not, it might be for what he said about John Amici that time, if assuming that he is Hall of Famer. Either way, though, was a fantastic player. But man, he might be in Europe right now if you just had a version of him. Because I'm not going to lie, I think Mike James, modern day Mike James, as a pure basketball player, might be better than what Tim Hardaway was in the 90s. It does not mean Mike James has had a better legacy, Mike James had a better career. It just means that Mike James, the basketball player, skill set wise and everything, might have been better than Tim Hardaway. And that's fine because players build. It's 30 years later. If players haven't evolved, something's seriously wrong with the sport. But anyway, see you guys.